Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. With your host, Dapper Data.
Let's go. Are you ready to listen? Are you ready to listen, my dolly?
What's up, y'all? Y'all listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. Always with your host, your boy Dapper Data. Thank you for tuning in again. This is season 2, episode 4. I've been bringing individuals on the podcast, as you know, just interviewing them from time to time, trying to see how they deal with data on a regular basis. And today I got a special guest. As usual, I got special guests, but this one is really, really special. This is like my brother right here. You know, it's like my blood brother. So today I want to introduce someone who deals with data on a regular basis to make better decisions with a lot of the work that he does. My boy Paul Atueyi. Say hi, Paul.
Hey, what's good?
Yeah.
Thanks
Man,
for having me, man.
I'm gonna jump right in, man. My boy Paul, man, we've known each other since, man, what was it, 2000 and 2003 time frame, man. So we
Yeah,
we out
yeah,
here. We went to Bowie State together. We was in the summer, what was the engineering program? It was SIM program, the little science engineering and
yeah.
math
Science,
program.
engineering,
Yeah,
mathematics,
yeah. And
SEM.
and actually, to let y'all know, let me correct myself. Is Dr. Paul Atueyi. Dr. Paul Atueyi. So y'all find out more about, why he's a doctor, how he got to where he came from. But we've known each other, man, since summer program in college, our freshman year, and never looked back since, man. We chop it up about everything. And you let any one of our friends tell you that man, we can probably talk for hours and hours on the phone. We're probably the most talkative. So, but I brought him on, man, because he's in a very interesting field, a field that probably impacts or have impacted every one of you, your siblings, your family, you name it. And so, he has a lot of he has a good story to tell. But yeah, Paul, man, tell him a little about yourself, man. Tell him your background, man, what you do.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so right now I am a pharmacist. I'm an assistant supervisor
Uh-huh.
for Kaiser Permanente. Oh, sorry about that, man. I don't know what's going on with this.
It's all good.
I can mute it. Okay, yeah. So yeah, and currently I was at Bowie I was a biology major, chem minor. And to be honest, man, I didn't really know what I was going to really do with the degree. I didn't always have my eyes on pharmacy. I even thought about changing my major once
To
to
what?
computer science.
Oh man, you should have came over to the dark side, man. I ain't even know that, man.
Yeah, man, I thought about it, man. I did. I thought about doing it. I had a computer science class actually.
Mhm.
And I don't know if many people know that, but I had a computer science class and, I took it and I wasn't really interested, man. I'll be honest. I wasn't too interested in it.
I
Not to
feel
say
you.
that one could argue that I gave up too soon.
Uh-huh.
That's fine. But I just felt like, sticking it out with the science aspect of what I
Right.
was already a part of. Uh, Graduated '08. Took prerequisites, started pharmacy school in the fall of '09. I went to Notre Dame of Maryland University, that's in Baltimore,
Mhm.
and I pretty much went to school for 4 years, graduated there, and pretty much been a pharmacist ever since, man.
Yeah, man. So that pharmacy school thing, and what that was really interesting is I didn't even know as long as I've known you, Paul, I didn't know that you even took a computer science class, man. So
Yeah, I did,
I
man.
I do get though. I feel you, man, because at one point I was in computer science. I switched over to computer tech, to computer science. I was like, man, am I really feeling this? And the next thing you know, I went back to computer science. So I mean, at the end of the day, you got to kind of follow your passion and stuff, man. And so that's like, that's kind of what's most important and stuff, man. So but what made you get into like pharmacy in general? Because you got different paths, right? Like you could have taken probably from the biology path, right? The chemistry path and stuff, research and things like that. But like pharmacy, And the last podcast I had, man, was talking about how like how it was like important to 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 like to well, the last podcast Lawrence was talking about how you gotta make sure when you're in like the African, like Ghanaian situation, or even if you like or if you're or even if you're not like African or Ghanaian, but it's important. I mean, if you're African in general, it's important. Like as an engineer, you got to be an engineer, you got to be some type of profession like that. Do you see that as being something that's true as well?
That's funny, Matt. You mentioned that because, like, yeah. So he's right. He's spot on because it's pushed on by our parents, man. So
Uh-huh.
you always have to be, you always have to be like some form of healthcare worker. Always something in the in the field of healthcare. My mom at one point she mentioned being a cardiologist.
Oh.
Always something like in the medical field.
uh
I never really allowed that to get to me though. To be honest, like I didn't, let that like steer me or influence me to be a pharmacist. To be, keeping it real. Um, it was more so, in terms of like what caught my interest,
uh
and like you can have like multiple options. I thought I was just gonna be like a lab researcher, graduating, and I would just be doing that, as my career.
oh
Um,
man.
yeah. So, when my brother he mentioned going to pharmacy school too, and he was bringing the idea of having me apply.
Hmm.
I said, sure, why not? I don't mind doing it. But I kind of realized, like, as I was applying, or even more so than that, like I noticed I didn't know it then, but I know it now, and it kind of
Hmm.
correlates to why I'm in this field, and because I've realized that even well, not at a younger age, that I love helping people out,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it just became a matter of like how or in what way, which form,
Hmm.
and being a pharmacist for me was was the best way, at least at the time I felt like, to do that, especially since my mom, she was taking medications. So if I say, oh, okay, well, if I study or learn all about the stuff that she's taking, I can better take care of her.
Right.
So
So it's even helping your
so
mom out. That was a whole that was something that you even thought about as well.
yeah, of course, for sure. And then just helping out other people in general, man, like whether people in the community, kids, and even when I started working as a pharmacist, and I got better in terms of learning the system at the job,
Hmm.
but even just outside of learning the system, I was able to build relationships.
Right.
Yeah, and the more and more relationships I build, I built, excuse me, it kind of made me realize, like, okay, this is what I should have been doing, because
Right.
that pretty much certain things you never can get that feeling doing, and that's being a retail pharmacist, not a clinical pharmacist. Let me
Uh,
correct people on that.
and what would be the kind of the difference though? I won't let you grill you too much or anything, but
No, that's cool.
wait before you start, I just want to tell the audience one thing. I'm telling you right now, I've never seen somebody that has studied so hard and that knows his craft like this dude, Dr. Paul Atueyi. No lie. I mean, this dude, I can ask him anything about medicine. I'm telling y'all, the guy will break it down to you like no other. But go ahead, man. The clinical versus, you were saying the clinical versus the what again? I'm sorry.
The retail.
Retail. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have clinical pharmacists. They mainly work in hospital settings.
Mm,
You have retail pharmacists. They mainly work in outpatient settings. That's what it's usually considered, or as simply just a retail setting, like those pharmacies you see in the grocery stores, or CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, etc.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
it's not like every day, and a clinical pharmacist, and from what I've seen or know, they
Mm,
mainly deal with the pretty much the rounding team. They help out the doctors that they're affiliated with in reference to, taking care of the patients who, are on their specific unit.
Hmm.
You know, is it impossible? Do I say that they don't have that, you know, patient to doctor relationship? I won't say that. I just don't think it's like every day where I can't, in a clinical setting, it's not like I can just call, somebody or patient who I build a connection with just to simply ask how they're doing. Or
Right.
someone can't call the job and ask for me and have that conversation with me to express how they feel about the medicine that they're taking,
Hmm.
or, just about how they're feeling about their day. I've
Right.
had conversations like that too.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Right. So like with your field though, man, I know like on a daily basis, being one of the managers there, you probably deal a lot with data. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like, in order for you to make decisions, you got like, your computer systems, man, they're constantly telling you, all kinds of information. When y'all are collecting, y'all collect information, y'all use information to help to see probably, how many patients, or I mean, how many people have come in to get certain things and all that stuff like that, man. What are some ways that you see that you currently use data a lot to help you make decisions in the pharmaceutical field?
Well, data is simply used, in general, when we talk about data is used in gathering or compiling the research that is even gained to come up with these certain documents that,
Oh
pretty
yeah.
much physicians or pharmacists or these medical professionals use to make decisions on a daily basis, right? So they have these clinical trials where they have a
Mm.
specific amount of patients involved, and they use they use the data to, like, pretty much determine how effective is the sample size, and based upon the research, they're able to make a solid decision on whatever it is that they're researching. So
Oh, so
based
wait a minute.
upon,
Oh, go
uh,
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
no, go ahead, no,
Because I was
you can
going to
ask the
ask,
question.
like, man, I mean, you brought up something good. So what you're saying is, like, the clinical trials that are out there that's constantly going on and stuff, they're collecting that on a regular basis. Like, they probably collecting like rows and rows and rows and like millions of like rows of data, and that helps them make certain type of decision. Like, what kind of decision? You mean like, whether like a certain medicine can come out or not, or whether like, like what kind of decisions do you see them making sometimes on like those clinical research uh, things that's going on?
Yeah, so that's a good question, man. I mean, we're talking about like everything. Like, we're just, but for starters, just simply for indications. Like,
Mm,
think about, okay, for example, if someone is taking, hydrochlorothiazide or, HCTZ, how does someone know that it's for blood pressure?
you're
How
right.
do you determine that?
I wouldn't know. Just by
How does one,
look.
yeah, like
Yeah.
how does one determine, you know, to use hydrochlorothiazide first as opposed to, like Synapryl or losartan,
Hmm.
furosemide or any one of those other blood pressure prescriptions, blood pressure medications that to help reduce blood pressure. All of them, they're pretty old, pretty effective, but again, like how does one know that?
Right.
Think about that. And that's what the data is used to determine. It's used to determine those guidelines that people they either know or they keep in handy, and they use that to just make those decisions. Even companies, like, think when companies make these medications, like, they can't make anything that's quote unquote not FDA approved, right?
Hmm.
So if something is specifically FDA approved for, this indication, then they can go ahead and market that drug. And I mean, that's a whole nother side of it, because now, they look at it like, okay, it's time to make money, right?
Right. 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 Right.
So yeah. Mhm.
Nah, man. Hey, that's dope, man. Because a lot of people out here don't know that like that's the process all the way to get to like what you do. You know what I'm saying and stuff. And you are, you're an intricate part of that and stuff. So like that's the beginning stages and stuff, right? So that's one way they're collecting data and stuff just to get the drug out there, right? Just to be able to say, well, this should be approved or not, or to be able to say, man, it has these type of like that's probably how they can tell, well, it got these side effects, right? Because they actually, are collecting data and say over time, like, all right, we realize that this is a main side effect that they get from a lot of this medicine because we tested it, and they
Mhm.
collected the data and stuff like that. They don't just out the blue just come up with this crap. You know what I'm saying? Just say it or whatever. They actually are taking it. And we talked a little bit about earlier, like man, it may take a while, right? To even get this one drug out, and that's dope because like talk about like how long you even see, like how much data is collected, like how many years we talking about, that you may see on an average before you even get a drug out.
I mean, from what I've learned, man, it takes, it can take anywhere between 15 to 20 years, for a drug to
That's
get approved
crazy, man.
because it goes through certain phases. And again, in these certain phases, they're being tested.
Right.
They're being tested to see how effective it is, towards whatever study group that, they're presenting it on. So that way they're able to push it in the market or not.
Right. So throughout your process in school, one of the things I know, like right now I'm going through my doctorate degree, it's going to take me a little while and stuff, but you've been there, done that. And you've been there for it was for pharmacy school, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you went and got it. So during that process, man, like that's data right there that people are collecting, right? Like you're actually doing research. Are you contributing to the community of like pharmacy? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you like when you're writing papers and stuff like that? Is that like because they have to like study the research that's been done by all kinds of people. And so like, is that something that you even had to do? Like, writing papers and stuff like that? Is that data that people are taking in, you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, like when I was in school, like, I wasn't actually contributing to the pharmacy community yet,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're in pharmacy school, they're pretty much just grooming you, getting you ready, teaching you a lot of basic information, preparing you for the real world. And there are a lot of things that you're going to have to learn through experience. Like you can't, I don't think somebody that has graduated pharmacy school can be fully prepared 100%, to any setting that, that they jump into. But at least
Right.
they have the basic knowledge, and the basic skill set, to adjust and pretty much be more prepared. Yeah, I did write papers and I did have to, do research, looking at studying those certain trials, whichever, depending on the articles that I had to use. And I did have to present them. And again, like those were real articles that were
Right.
based on everything that I had just mentioned previously, in order to validate whatever narrative I was presenting.
Right. But yeah, man, it's like the data is like continuously growing. You got like social media and all that stuff, man. I'm starting to see people being able to use social media in different ways and stuff. And so that might be something that you all are even like, being able to use as far as like research, like collecting the data and stuff that's out there in social media to be able to help decisions as well. So I'm starting to see that, but like, are y'all able to use data to like help with customers? Like as far as being able to say, I know this customer is running out of this medicine, or
Mhm.
something like that. Like, do you see that a lot? Because how are y'all able to automatically send this text, to somebody, right, in the pharmacy industry, right? I get a text that says, I mean, I'm sorry for probably messing up the name, but like RX something, I might get a text and say your prescription is ready or something like that. It's like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, or not even your prescription, like you've already used, X amount, are you ready for the next update, or the next prescription, like that has to be something related to like the data that's being able to collect, maybe about the individual, itself and everything.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So, that particular portion, it varies. Like, yeah, I have different, so my mind just went like this when you asked that, because I was different opinions about it, but, sticking in that scenario, like, yeah, so, pretty much the data is like, we have ways to see. So basically, if the doctor's office sent over a prescription, or if you dropped it off, however it was presented, if you dropped it off, let's say on Friday, right? And I'm at work today, and I'm able to see when you pick that up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the system, goes off of that sold date, as opposed to, like, let's say if you came in and picked it up on Sunday, like as of today, you picked it up on a Sunday, then it goes off of the sold date. So
Mm-hmm.
now let's say if you came back, after picking it up for about for a month's worth, and you tried to come back after like 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
so 21 days, and now you're trying to say, oh, you need a refill on your prescription. Now we're gonna have to run it back through, and also, with the data or the data processes, you have insurance too, that of course that allows people to have lower copays based on your plans. So the
Mm-hmm.
insurance company is going to go off of the sold date, and they're going to say, wait, Bobby just picked up his prescription on this day, and it's too soon. And it
Mm-hmm.
gives you that date, or the earliest date of when he can pick it up.
Right.
So that's like mainly pretty much what all pharmacy systems use. Like it's just every system is different. See, I've been in a CVS environment, so we had like RX Connect,
Mm-hmm.
and just being where I'm at now, like is they use EPIMS is what it's called. So like those particular systems, they're very different, but that concept is the same in terms of like how to determine when someone can pick up their prescription or not.
Right.
But there are ways around it.
So at your, like where you're at right now, do you see that you all have to kind of collect the data based off of like, are y'all at the part, or is this before y'all? But it's still, I feel like it's still in that same chain somehow, where you have like negative outcomes, and like being able to deal with like risk factors and things like that. And like if you were able to give, like if it was, because y'all don't really, y'all kind of are like the in between, right? You got the people who are saying like here is the medicine to distribute for this and that, and you know it to a T and stuff, but then you pass it along to the people who are saying, hey, I need this medicine for whatever issue I got going on, and they got the response maybe from, like, they might have got it from like the doctors or something like that, to say, hey, look, get this prescription, blah blah, this and that and stuff. So do you see like, as far as like the negative impacts and stuff, do you have to jot those down and collect that as like data? Do they come back to y'all, is that something that's like, how do they even collect that, right? Like the negative impacts of like the daggone like the the medicine and stuff, right? After it's already been passed out, right? How do I mean, are you a part of that?
Part of that team.
Yeah, are you a part of that group that would have to see that?
Like, you mean like collect the negative impact of somebody taking a medication?
Right, right, right.
I mean, yeah, partially. Like in terms of the internally, like no, like but yeah, you can say I'm definitely a part of it, because it's not like if someone is coming into the pharmacy saying that this medication had a negative like impact on me, and obviously if they said that, right, you don't want to keep giving it to them. You don't want to keep dispensing it, to that person.
Right, right.
So is there a way that the system could, pick that up based on what they say? No. But based on what the person says, can you add that in the system?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can you communicate that to the doctor? Yes. Can
Right.
you communicate to the doctor to try to get the prescription changed in order for the patient to try something else, to where they won't be feeling, whatever effect that is that they were feeling previously? Yes, you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the data, you can look in a patient's profile and see why that it was caused. Maybe it was an allergic reaction. Maybe it could have been
Mm.
based on something else that they were taking. Um,
Right.
you know, it could be.
And
You
all
try to
that
take the pic.
and all
Yeah,
that
go
data
ahead.
is like collected beforehand, right? Like that data, you already know, like, all right, man, they got this alert allergy, right? They should not have got that prescription maybe based off of the allergy, but it's actually in the system, right? Because the thing is, like, like it's that those are the type of vital signs and all that stuff like that that's collected. Like, it's dope that everybody is privy to that knowledge sharing information, right, within the chain, because it's like, you need that. You need that in the chain. But that's a lot of data. People don't understand. Like people get all mad, man. Like why in the world? Why in the world you gotta collect all this data on me, right? From the initial stages, right? A doctor, like, why you need to know my blood pressure? Why you need? I'm coming in here for this code. Why you gotta, And they collect it all the time, right? They gotta get this updated information. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I might be one of them. If I'm going in there, I'm like, I feel like I got an upper respiratory infection, and you go in there and you check him. I'm like, why in the world are you checking my blood? I don't care, right? I'm telling you what I got. But it seems like they may collect the data because they need to update it, and I didn't know how much of knowledge sharing y'all do, right? From what I'm hearing from you is that like you're able to see certain things that's been passed along from the doctor and all that stuff, which is dope. You know what I'm saying? Like you're able to do a lot of knowledge sharing in the environment and stuff, for sure. So
Yeah, man. I mean, exactly. Sometimes what I tell people that I work with is, you have certain patients that will get mad at things they don't understand.
mhm,
Um, it's okay to question the system. It's okay to question the logic of why, these or certain metrics need to be taken to be kept in the system. Um,
mhm,
I think what needs to be more understood though, in that sense is that, we need to get all parameters to be able to evaluate you, right? Because maybe if, there are some times where somebody, a patient could have something going on and, doctors won't have a clue.
mm,
So,
right,
you know, in that case, like, where do they go from there, right? If they don't have the proper, vitals, as you mentioned, that could have easily determined that, then, they can get in trouble for that, right?
right, right, right,
They can get in
right.
trouble for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
dope, man.
yeah, man. It's. I mean, it's a lot to it, man. Because, you know, also, like I was saying though, for patients who pretty much have these particular specific situations going on,
Hmm.
like how does a doctor actually determine, what the possible factors could be, and that's by getting all of the correct numbers and the correct metrics that is needed to make a determination.
Mm,
If
mm,
they don't have that, then they would, a lot of times they would probably use their best judgment and try to evaluate further, maybe send you to a specific specialist. And it still happens too,
right,
whether they
right.
have the metrics or not, they still do that.
Yo, you just said something that kind of just sparked something. Like, I mean, it just made me think about how like it's important to collect the data in your field, right? But I think the most important thing is the accuracy of the data, right? Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like people out here collecting data, you can collect a bunch of it, but it gotta be the right data.
Yeah.
Because
I,
I mean, go ahead, man, because that's like important, man. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Accuracy.
Let's think about typical situation, right?
Uh-huh.
You got a sick child, and, mother or father or parents, they bring the child to the doctor's office,
Mhm.
and they're getting upset that they're taking or gathering all this simple information about the child because the child is sick, and they just want to get the medicine to make them feel better.
Mhm.
Okay. So what if, like, if that step was bypassed, right? Let's say if all of a sudden the doctor just says, okay, he may have, you know, sinus infection, whatever, here, give you some amoxicillin suspension.
Mhm.
Okay. They give it to the child. What about the child? Now the child breaks out into an allergy. Or
Mm.
breaks out in a rash, excuse me. They break out in a severe rash.
Right.
And it wasn't caught because the parents were rushing the child so much that they never told the doctor that their child had a penicillin allergy.
Mm.
So something that simple could have been inputted in the system, to
Right.
whereas if the pharmacy was filling that prescription, it would have been a hard stop
Right. Right.
saying, hey, this patient has a penicillin allergy.
Mhm.
You may want to consult with a doctor.
Man. Like, yeah, and like the allergy. I mean, I'm allergic to amoxicillin myself. And I can only imagine. Like I wasn't allergic to
Yeah.
amoxicillin like when I was younger though, and that's probably another reason why they gotta continue to collect the data, even if it don't got nothing to do with what you coming in for. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Then they gotta collect that data because they might want to find something out new. They might find something out new, or they might actually want to make sure because I guess your body changes over time, right? You know what I'm saying? I wasn't allergic to something when I was younger, amoxicillin. Then as I got older, I was allergic to amoxicillin. And so then luckily they continue to ask like, I mean, they continue to check these things and update the system. Because if you got data that's like 5 years old, man, who knows what would have happened 5 years ago compared to now and stuff. So I'm sure things change like over time, and I mean, even from an insurance standpoint, right? Like you gotta make sure that's right all the time, right? Because y'all, I already know every time I go into CVS, they're like, yeah, is your insurance updated? Is it the latest? Is this the right accurate insurance and stuff? Because that probably could halt a lot of things too. As far as like being able to provide you with the medicine, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So insurance is definitely important, right?
For sure. That could definitely halt the process, man, because you know, I mean, typically insurance is what pays for your prescription, right? So
Right.
that's one of the biggest factors of why medicine is such a huge deal in America, right? Because of cost.
Yeah.
Right? We uh, you have a lot of people who are just less fortunate, so they need everything they can get, to their advantage.
Right.
So
Right.
if you have somebody who they're picking up prescriptions, especially for those, for the people who have cancer, uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, HIV, things like that too. Those medications are very expensive, man. So if they don't have the proper insurance on file, those medications cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And as long as their insurance is updated and everything, like that allows them to not pay anything or to pay a very low copay for their prescriptions. Even those diabetic patients too, because insulin is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Insulin out of pocket is very expensive.
They gotta be keeping up with they gotta be keeping up with the data of the cost too, right? Like, cause how do they even know whether this is an affordable drug or not, right? For like the average people that are out there getting this thing. So that's something I ain't even think about. Like that's probably something that they got to keep up with too, as far as the data. Like, all right, this cost, the average people can't afford this, so let me make it this specific cost for this drug. I done seen some drugs that's expensive as crap, just going in there. If your insurance can at least pay a good amount of it, that's great. But sometimes you go in, this might be a drug that is very, very important. And I mean, all of them probably important for whatever the use case is and stuff for the person. But like, for instance, you know what I'm saying, for cancer or something like that, whatever drug that's given, you know what I'm saying, like, they got to say, well, I could charge this much somehow, but based off of like economy and all that stuff, the cost has to be around this range because I can't really overcharge people or nobody's going to be able to survive this range. You know what I'm saying? So it's probably big in the cost there and stuff too, man.
Yeah, I think the insurance company themselves, they're the ones who are determining the cost of the prescriptions. The
Right.
insurance companies, they contract with the pharmacies, to allow patients or whomever to come in and use their company. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you got, just think about Medicaid individuals, people who use Obamacare and things like that, or like those Medicare Part D individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you got those people, or Blue Cross Blue Shield, even just insurance companies in general, they have what's called formularies. They, prescription medications that are formulary, because sometimes people get confused, like patients. They'll think that, insurance means that everything is paid for no matter what you get.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it works. At the insurance companies, they develop formularies, so they have people on their end who are using data and say, okay, this medication, these list of medications, we're going to include in our formulary to be affordable to whoever chooses to go with us,
Right.
as opposed to, the non-formulary medications, to where maybe it's just, it'll possibly just be too much for the company to pay for out their own pocket. So they just say, okay, if the patients want these, they're going to have to pay out of pocket for it. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
it's definitely, I think when it comes to insurance companies, it's definitely about what, what's affordable, but it's about money.
Yeah, oh, definitely,
In my
man.
opinion, in my
Man.
opinion,
Yeah, we already know that. That's probably like a whole nother podcast, man. Maybe our
it
journey
is.
later on stuff. I ain't gonna tell them too much. I ain't gonna tell the audience too much about what we got coming up, man. But we definitely are brothers, man, and we got some stuff for y'all in the future and stuff, man. But
Yeah, get in the
so
kitchen.
right, right. so so Paul, man, like what do you so do you have any thoughts as to how you think like the pharmacy could be using data, in the future and stuff, or like to predict things. Like, what would help your job better, right? You know what I'm saying? To be able to spot on predict, somebody coming in and stuff, and you like, oh, I don't know, right? You know what I'm saying? Like something cool maybe that you may think like, man, if I would love for like the computer industry or like data science and stuff to kind of be ahead of the game to be able to do some type of cool prediction to help your job to be better and stuff, right? Artificial intelligence, whatever it is.
Thinking about that. Well, before I answer, I'm gonna say something, then I'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So some certain things that people may not understand. I'm not sure. I don't think we ever had the discussion. Is Yeah. So to answer that question, I'm gonna say a statement, then I'm gonna go back. So like for people, if I don't know if we ever had this conversation before, but what a lot of people got to understand is like the data and these pharmacies is also used to tally up the results. Like
Mm-hmm.
we also have they like we there are also metrics that all of these pharmacy companies use. Pick one. You talk about Shoppers, Walmart,
Oh man,
Walgreens, CVS.
I didn't
So
even think about that.
so they use metrics to determine how well the store is performing. So
Mm,
so they have these systems that are put in place, using certain technology that allow the employees of pharmacists and technicians to dispense medications, as fast as possible,
mm-hmm.
right? And if you think like it's a money grab, it's a game of
Yeah.
money. At the end of the day, patient care is definitely there, but one would argue that they're not given enough speed or enough time, excuse me, enough time to actually fully assess patients like they would like.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like, typical Walgreens or CVS, like any retail setting, you want to get this prescription filled within about 10 to 15 minutes. There's a metric that measures that alone.
Mm-hmm.
And based upon that, they use that data to say, okay, based upon that, we have more patient satisfaction. Because one thing in life that people don't like to do is wait.
Who
They
you
don't like to
telling,
wait in
man?
line.
Time
Yeah,
is big, man. We talk about it all the time, man.
yeah, they don't like to wait in line. So it puts a lot of pressure on us pharmacists to get these prescriptions out of there using the systems that are in place as fast as possible. And we're talking about hundreds of prescriptions filled every day.
Dang.
So, you know, you got to think about like, how that actually could affect like patient care to some
Mm-hmm.
aspect, right? I'm pretty sure that's a whole nother topic, but I wanted to put that out there. I think one thing, if I haven't seen it yet, that will be good is, virtual counseling, for
Mm,
retail settings. It would allow people to have access to speak with the pharmacist, you know, outside of the retail setting.
ah,
If they were allowed to schedule a virtual consultation,
mm-hmm.
or if pharmacists in these retail settings were allowed to work at home too, doing these virtual consults. And for example, if somebody had a question about a medication, or they had a question about one of their refills, one of these simple questions, question about their refill or pricing or anything, you could have one of these pharmacists in the retail setting to have a computer at home that can access the system that's being used in the store,
Mm-hmm.
to pretty much look up all this information to where they can see, the insurance that can be used, They can see like their medication profile to ask them these questions, and then they'll just be able to give using other resources to give a pretty much give the best answer to the patient. But of
Right,
course, they
right.
wouldn't be able that they would only be limited because they wouldn't be at the pharmacy to actually fill the medication. But at least like let's say if they had access to the system at home, you can have these pharmacists that could still go in and
Uh-huh.
do like the data entry for these prescriptions and still do these virtual counseling for members, with meetings being set up, just like like a doctor's office, like what they're doing now. You can set up phone appointments or virtual appointments. I haven't seen that in a retail setting yet, so I think that would be dope.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's a great idea, man. And even to add to that, man, because one of the things that I just thought about based off of what you said, like the virtual counseling thing. Like, I mean, I know you always talk about how, man, y'all are busy as crap, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all are busy. Y'all got things y'all got to do behind the scenes. Plus, y'all got to deal with the customers and stuff, and then customers don't know all that, right? They just want their meds, right? So you got all this going on. But, like, if you were able to have some type of like artificial intelligence or something like bot, right? The robot, not necessarily to replace you all, but to be side by side and help out with things like that, right? Like be able to chat online, and then they have a bot there that says, "All right, you asking this question," and then it goes back and search through the data real quick, and they can find an answer for you. Whereas now you got another one of you. I mean, that's not going to replace y'all because at the end of the day, you can't. I always say you can't replace. You will never be able to replace people like you all because you're trying to you can't replace like chaos, right? You can't replace like the empathy. You can't replace those type of things, so you're
Yeah.
just not going to be able to you're not going to be able to, the chaotic customer out there that comes out and just needs some kind of crazy stuff and they're just disgruntled and all that stuff like that, where you got a robot who's like, they're not going to be like, yeah, I understand, how you feel and things like that, I'm sorry and blah blah. They're not going to show any empathy. They're going to be like, yeah, I said before the data is here. This is what it says. They're gonna just hit you with that junk over and over again, and you're gonna mess
Yeah,
around
I'll
and
get
just
frustrated.
knock the computer out. I know, right? But then you got a human, right, who can still be frustrated, right? But you got the human who still can who still can have empathy with the customer and say, "Dag, I know what they're going through and stuff." I mean, I might not know exactly what they're going through, but I know that we have been waiting. I mean, they have been waiting for a while. Let me try my best to accommodate this customer. Like like having a robot there that's able to scan through the data faster than y'all can, right? Because you think about it, like that's the beauty of the AI and stuff. They're able to look through all this mounds of data, right? And then they're able to possibly, more than likely, not have like a human error where they're like tired or
Yep.
mess up or something like that. So you got somebody
Yep.
like a robot that's never going to get tired. They're going to scan
Yep.
forever and all that stuff. So then they can actually help out, right? Whereas now y'all can handle certain things, right, with the customer interface and all that stuff day to day that you got to do. Like, are they even talking about that stuff? Eventually. I mean, do you hear that any at all?
I haven't heard that at all, man. I think it's based on the certain things that you mentioned. I've had
Hmm.
conversations about that though, you know, and they're I could understand it. Some people would think that, you have robots replacing pharmacists,
Right,
and I can't picture it
right,
because, you got in your perfect world, you have medications being dispensed, it gets to the pharmacist, in this case the robot check it, push it out, good to
right,
go. But again, like I said, there are certain metrics that have to be met.
right, right.
So
And speaking of
what
those metrics, though, real quick, because oh, sorry, you had a thought, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, you're good, you're good, you're good,
Uh,
good.
I was just thinking because I got so hype off of the fact that off of I get hype for all kinds of knowledge. You know me, man. I'm always like obsessed with growth and stuff. But
I like spare for the spare.
I know that's a little inside joke, man. Y'all know about, man. Don't worry about that. but when you talk about like the metrics that y'all collecting, when you think about like so this is a question I had because I jotted it down. I was like, dang, that's kind of dope that y'all collected metrics from. We're not just talking about a CVS. You're not just talking about a Walgreens. You're not just talking about the shoppers over here or whatever it is. You're talking about multiple pharmacies and you got collected and stuff. And it helps you make different investments and stuff like that. It has to, right? So the way that I look at it is, or the question I had is, do those metrics also determine like whether you disperse more of a certain medication to a certain pharmacy, you know what I'm saying, than the other one? Because if y'all are active, right, if y'all over there at the pharmacy you're at, you know what I'm saying, and y'all are like active way more than a pharmacy down the street, then if they already know that, then they're going to like, all right, I'm going to give you maybe two more of this medicine or something like that. Or I'm gonna give you more of this medicine than I'm gonna give you of this other medicine. I mean, then I'm gonna give this pharmacy of the same medicine because they're not gonna get as many clients as y'all are, right? Do you
Mm.
see that happen at all?
With data.
Well, not even from a like it's probably based off of data because they got to know because it's just like for instance, I'll give a comparison, right? So you got like Targets and Walmarts and stuff like that. So with Target, like the Target in Maryland versus the Target in Virginia, right? There's multiple in each one, but let's just say it's one Target in Maryland and one Target in Virginia. A lot of times like they collect data, the corporate target, right, may collect data, wherever that is, may collect data over time and say, well, I know that the target in Maryland is busier than the target in Virginia on a regular basis, you know, in general. Or they may say, well, I know that they sell more uh, baby clothes over in the Target in Virginia for some reason than they do in the Target in Maryland, right? And so in the Target in Maryland, they're not going to give them as many baby clothes, right? They're just going to give them enough so that they give them the amount that they actually, on the average, they're checking. Like, okay, on the average, y'all selling about this much at Maryland, so I'm gonna give you that. But in Target, I mean, the one in Virginia, they're gonna give them more, right? So say you got the pharmacy right where you're at, right? Let's say Maryland, right? The pharmacy in Maryland. Then you got the pharmacy out here in Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be it could be whatever supplier. Well, I mean whatever group it is, like whether it's a CVS, whether it's Walgreens, whatever it is. But if they know, because it has to be times where you have said, man, we don't have that right now, right? We don't have
Mm-hmm.
this medicine. But if you go to the Walgreens, right, they may have it. And they have it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it sometimes because looking at the data, they may get more of that item sometimes? Like do they disperse more of one type of medicine to something that's more busy than they do to like y'all or vice versa or something?
So no, when it comes to the inventory, it's store specific. So
Mm-hmm.
I think what determines that is the area that your store is in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have, for instance, use the Target in Maryland versus a Target in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the Target in Maryland that were, you know, you had, depending on the neighborhood that you were in, let's say if the patient population there were, more diabetics,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna see a lot of metformins, glipizides, pioglitazones, and your
Right,
Lantus
right,
and
right.
things like that. Versus your target in Virginia, if you saw like a high population of HIV people, and that, I mean, in that specific target, so you're going to
Yeah.
dispense more HIV medications, and that's going to be up to discrepancy of the pharmacist. Like they're not going to have a like one list of medications, and they're going to say, okay, well, we're running low on these things, but at the same time, all that is being kept in place because they have metrics that are being performed, such as like cycle counts, to where it allows you to keep up with the inventory in the pharmacy on a daily or weekly, monthly basis. So, depending on how your system is set up, they know to automatically order the medication that you're running low on,
Right, right.
or you as a pharmacist or whomever you pretty much you give the direction to give or to put in an order for, they will know, okay, well, we're running low on these orders based upon the cycle counts, as if you're doing them correctly. So I know to go into the system and order more of it so it stays on the shelf. So you never
Right,
run
right.
out of the issue, or you never run into an issue of not having it in stock. Now, if you did run into that issue though, right,
Mm-hmm.
let's say if you delegated the order to a technician, they put it in, or whatever the case may be, and let's say for whatever reason didn't come in that day or the next day, and a member, a patient comes in trying to pick it up. Depending on how the system is set up, you can look at another store's inventory, in the system. There's a system set up where you can look at another store's inventory to see whether they have the medication or not. But
Right.
from my experience, like, most of the times they'll just
Right.
call the store and see if they have it. And if they do have it, they just simply transfer it out.
But that's how you kind of can get ahead, if you already are checking the inventory and things like that. And that's another thing to kind of point out, like the inventory is like important. And what you just said was dope because like that's data right there. You know what I'm saying? That they're
Mm-hmm.
using to be able to make decisions as to, you got more HIV people at this one place versus this place. All right, I'm gonna distribute some more here. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And even to piggyback off there, like I can tell you now, like, in pharmacies now, I could tell you that they have sections called, like, the retail pharmacies, that is. They have sections called like fast movers.
mhm,
Yeah, every pharmacist or majority of pharmacists that hear that term will automatically, or they're going to know what that means. They're fast
mhm.
movers. So those are your prescriptions or medications that are dispensed, quite often. So
Got you.
it should never be. So if like, I know ibuprofen is, that's going to be one of the most common fast movers in
Yeah, they should never run out of
any
that.
retail setting you go to. Yeah, any retail
Ah,
setting you go to, fast
okay.
movers. So if you're always dispensing ibuprofen every day, every week, each month, that's exactly like you just said. That should be something that you never run out of. So,
Right.
like I said, in my experience, if for whatever reason, if we didn't get that, if there was ever a time where we didn't get that, my antennas go
Right.
up. We didn't. If I ever saw in the
Bat signal.
system, like, yeah, it just goes up because I would just be wondering why.
Right.
Or if like, I used to look out for patients that I knew were on certain medications. So if I knew they would be taking this medication on a monthly basis, I would always make sure that it stays on the shelf, to always have in stock. There have been
Mm,
times when people come to me, they've expressed their frustration to me. Every time I come in, this medication is always out of stock. It's always out of stock. So I
uh,
take note of it and I say, okay. So I always make sure that we order ahead of time, to
Ah.
make sure that this medication is always on the shelf every time
Mhm.
that this patient comes in, so they can never complain.
Yeah. And y'all probably already got an inventory as to what is automatic. I mean, y'all probably already know, like a good pharmacist, like the managers, they probably would know what ones are probably pretty much like always out of stock and stuff. You got to be ahead of the game. But, in inventory, right? Something you brought up with inventory made me think about like how accurate that has to be, right? Like we talk about inventory. If your
Yeah,
inventory is
we
not
talk about that.
accurate, right? And you sit there and you're like, all right, I don't got this, but I know I can probably get it from this store, and that inventory ain't accurate, right? That's a problem. Or if you're saying, hey, you can go to the store and get it, the Walgreens, whatever it is, I can search and you can go here, and that inventory is not accurate. You know what I'm saying? Then man, like you got, that's a whole nother problem. So that's why the data got to be important in the inventory section as well.
Yeah, that speaks, and exactly. That's why a lot of stores call.
Mm.
Even I would call, like, to be honest, just because of what you said.
Right, right.
Like, can you trust what you see 100% of the time? And to be honest, I always take, better safe than sorry. So, I typically just call, just be on the safe side and just make sure that they have it. And you don't want to tell a patient that, yeah, this store has it, just by seeing what's in front of you. You send them to that store, they don't have it, because obviously they're going to be upset. And that's something at least I would try to avoid.
Right, right.
Essentially that's just that's bad service, man. I take pride in that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
gotta, cause you gotta put yourself in their shoes. I think that's what a lot of pharmacists and technicians, just employees in general, despite how tough things get, you always gotta think about that. Like, put yourself in their shoes, and just really try to be there for them and look out. Because you don't want to send somebody on a runaround
Yeah.
saying that it's
Robot
here, it's
can't do
here, it's
that.
there.
A robot not
A
gonna be able to
robot
do
can
that.
do that. A
It's
robot
like,
can do that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, man.
depends. And again, customer service is also another metric that is measured in
Hmm.
pharmacies. And a robot can't can't show emotions. So,
Mm-hmm.
somebody can't, in a survey, somebody can't say, oh man, this robot was very nice to me.
Yeah.
It really listened to everything I had to say, and it really understood my feelings and frustration about what I was experiencing. And it said that it would personally take care of me the next time I call or come in.
Right. Or
That would be crazy.
it
That would be
probably did
crazy to me.
if that was like embedded in the robot to like say that every time, then yeah, it'll just do it. But just off a GP, just saying it just because it really genuinely felt like that, nah, that just ain't gonna be able to do it.
Mm-mm,
You know what I'm saying? There's
mm-mm.
no way that I can do it, man. But yeah, man, that's I mean,
One thing you also got to think about replacing a pharmacist with a robot is you got to think about um, the team that you're working with,
mhm,
because a lot of retail settings, the pharmacist is working by themselves in most
mm,
stores. So what does that mean? Whether they're the manager or not,
mhm,
whichever pharmacist who is there that day is the leader. Essentially, they have to be the one to delegate and make sure everybody's being put in a proper place or to be efficient and succeed for the day.
right, right, right.
So meaning, if you had one pharmacist here and there was a line busy, the front line was busy, drive through was busy, drop off was busy. How do you handle that in a setting where you feel like you don't have enough people to man each station, right?
Mm,
How do you handle that? Some people could do it effectively, some people can't. There is a percentage of people who just, they just work their 8 and they just go. Um, but essentially, what I'm saying is that pharmacists could easily say, okay, you go here, you go there. I'm going to move myself over here
mm,
because I'm going to position myself to where I can be more efficient in this particular situation, so we can
right,
be most effective.
right,
I
right,
don't think a robot can do that.
right, right,
I don't think a robot can say, you know, hey, Vanessa, you go to the front line. Mark, you go to the drive-through, and you guys rotate back and forth. Or Mark, you rotate from one drive-through customer to the drop-off. I'm
right,
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna keep typing in the prescriptions that are coming in through the screen, and I'm gonna
right,
try to fill as much as possible.
right.
And I'm gonna just jump in each station as best as I can.
Right, right, because
Robot can't do that.
only y'all know, the strengths and weaknesses of the person. Plus, plus only y'all know, right? Shoot, that person might come in, they might have been killing it for like a whole like 3 months, right? They in
Yeah,
that's what they do. They killing the drive. They killing drive. They might have come in, man, and something happened. God forbid, something happened to the family member or somebody having a bad day. They come in, they just can't kill it that day. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Only the robot can't make that decision. Like, look, you got a bad day. Let me move you over here where you're not interacting with the customers more. Let me get. You can make that decision. You know what I'm saying? Being a manager, a human being, you can actually do that and stuff. You know.
Yeah. Even like, for example, I filled up to 400 prescriptions in a day before,
Hmm.
um, more possibly. And
That's crazy.
yeah, and you'll have just me and two technicians.
Hmm.
So just think about that for a second. Like how does that even occur? So now it's like, not only do you have to get all this work done, you have to get it done on time.
Right. You gotta be efficient with it. You gotta
You gotta
be
be
on
efficient.
time.
So, you know, the team that I was with, shout out to them. Like, we used to be so good together to the point where, like, we worked well together to the point where we could work in that setting and we can get the job done.
Right.
And, you know, pretty much when you study something to the point where you're able to pick out certain mistakes or things like that, you can catch like the interactions, or you can still do consultations in time. Everything it becomes about strategy.
Hmm.
What about people that come in with fake prescriptions too? We haven't even
Mm,
talked about that. We
man.
haven't even
So
talked about that.
man,
What
yeah,
about
a
what
robot,
about
a
if
robot can't, they can't make that decision, right? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Y'all are using, I mean, what do y'all use to determine somebody to come in with a fake prescription? And then what do you use to determine, like, if somebody has, because we even talked about it before, right? You got people that may come in that may be looking to overuse this might be medicine and stuff, right? And you talk about like those are possibilities, right? That you can have,
Yeah.
but you got to have, as a human, you got to be able to gauge that. But sometimes, right? Let's be honest, right? You could also gauge wrong, right? You know what I'm saying? You could be like, man, this person, you could give a false positive. You can give a false negative or something like that. You can, either way, you could possibly be wrong, but based off of like what you've seen, based off of data and things like that, you could probably determine better. Like these are probably the key things you look for in an individual, right? And you got something called the chaos theory. I think I mentioned this before, like in one of my old podcasts, but like the chaos theory is something that to me will allow the the robot to never take over, would never allow the robot to take over. There's too many things that are chaotic that go against what the repetitiveness of a robot can bring, right? The consistency that robot can bring. There's too many chaotic factors that come into certain things. This right here in pharmacy, it's too many chaotic factors, right? That come
Too
in,
many, man. Too many.
Yeah.
Think, and even to piggyback on that, right? What happens if you got like a member, which happens? They come in with a fake prescription, or better yet, they come in with a medication and for a narcotic and it's out of stock.
Mm-hmm.
Man, these people will get angry, man.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will get angry, they'll get upset, or even better, a better scenario, they come in, pick up a prescription, and like I said, they try to fill a narcotic and it comes up too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance on it's a week early.
Mm.
Oh, I want to pay cash, or I still want to get it. It shouldn't. I don't understand. I don't know why this happened.
Right, right,
And you're telling the member, okay, just a couple days early, a few days early, we can't fill it until
right.
this date. Oh, I want to speak to the manager. Oh, I want to speak to the pharmacist.
Right.
What are you gonna have? You're gonna have J5 just come to the consultation counter and try to reason with an
Yeah,
angry
that J
customer.
that's gonna steal him. That person gonna steal that robot immediately, right?
Listen, I've seen some stuff, man. I've seen some stuff in my experience, man. I've seen some stuff. I could tell you stories for days about
Oh
angry
man.
customers, man.
Oh,
I
we
can
can
tell
say
you.
we'll definitely say that for our podcast, our little side joint. That, I mean, another one
Yeah,
that we got coming up, but like that's hilarious, man. But what caught my attention just there, because that what you're saying, that first trigger for some of it may even be like a red flag, may be like, oh, you come in a week early, right? You look in the data, the system, right? It shows you like, man, like you can't just automatically think in your head they come in a week early. They come in and they're like, hey, let me get this. You look in the system, you're like, hold up, you a week early. Like that's a flag off the break. You know what I'm saying? And if they didn't have that accurate, you know what I'm saying, then that's a problem too. So, man, like man, y'all use data. I think this probably one of the podcasts, man. It probably ran over, man, about an hour almost, because you know how we get to rapping this
yeah.
stuff,
I
man.
know,
We don't
right? I
say,
know, right?
you
I
know.
know, right?
But nah, man, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end it and stuff, man. But
No
the
problem.
I always am with a dope data gem, and I know we talked about, man, like you get approximately, man, 15, 20 years, man, before some new drug is developed, man, and they're spending millions and millions of dollars on it, and that adds up, right? To you look at the clinical data they got to go through, you look at like the molecular stuff, the compound stuff they got to go through, they got to keep doing that over time. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when they're storing that data, it's like millions and millions of data, right? And so that's important for us to be able to do analytics on it and stuff, man. And a lot of people don't understand how important that is in the environment to be able to do that. And so this is a part of the healthcare industry that a lot of people take for granted, that they got to go through this process, to even get a medication out, and that all the stuff you have to go through to deal with all these people and things like that, and
Yeah.
how data's been able to help you and stuff, man, so I appreciate it, man. And, again, man, y'all out here listening, man, you're listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion. As always, your host, Dapper Data, Dope Dapper Data. I'm calling myself Dope Dapper Data. Soon to be doctor, man. I like talking to doctors,
Put some
man. Give me
swag in it, huh? Put some
give me
swag in it,
exactly a little sprinkle swag, But nah, man, y'all can reach me on IG, Twitter, Facebook, at Mr. Dapper Data, or LinkedIn at Bobby Roundtree. Paul, I want to thank you for joining in, and definitely want to make sure you're staying safe out there, man. For those of y'all that don't know, being in the pharmaceutical industry where he's at right now and the day-to-day things that he does, man, is essential to this world, and Paul has been right in the mix of things on a regular basis, because people need their medication, people need those things and stuff. And so he's sitting there sacrificing his life, every day, man. So we appreciate you, man, during this time of COVID-19. I just want to say thank you for all you're doing and all your team is doing and stuff too, man. And, where can they read if they want some advice on some things, man, you got a place they can reach you at, LinkedIn or something like that, man.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the best way to reach me via social media is through my Facebook.
Okay.
Anybody can just they can just search my name, Paul Atueyi, Atueyi, and they can send me a message there if they have any questions. We can just go from there.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking or texting or whatever.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks a lot again, man. I appreciate you, man. Love you as always, man. And be safe out there, man.
Love you too, bro. We'll catch up, man.
All right.
All right, man. One love.
Thank you for listening to the Data is My Science podcast, the show that makes data your passion, with your host, Dapper Data.